Alright, welcome back. This is Cult of Elections, and today we're going over a 2024 election night scenario that has Nikki Haley going up against Kyrsten Sinema. Shout out to Progressive Rising for suggesting this matchup. I never really thought of Sinema as a presidential candidate, but I mean, I definitely think she would be a good choice for Democrats. I know in the conservative community, I'm going to fill out Democratic states as I mentioned this. I know in the conservative community, she has received some praise for coming over the aisle with some issues. So there might be some crossover support there. Well, there would at least be some. I could definitely say that. So I'm going to fill out some safe Republican seats as well. Okay, we got to put South Carolina in the safe column. You just have to. Nikki Haley's the candidate. Also, I was thinking about doing a Democratic primary video. I was thinking AOC versus Pete Buttigieg. So let me know what you think about that down in the comments. But back to this video. Okay. I normally try and talk about whatever while I fill out the safe seats. But yeah, now let's talk about this in general. So I think minus Trump hate, states of Missouri, Montana, and Alaska will come back to safe red. Even with someone like good candidate like Kyrsten Sinema, I think. Alright, what are we starting with? I think Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Maine remain in the likely column, but not as likely as they were in the 2020 race. Perhaps a little bit smaller, but I think Sinema would be able to garner support in these states. Being able to reach across the aisle. Yes, I think so. I think that for that reason, Colorado moves to safe. However, New Mexico and Virginia are still likely. The high likely, I'd say close to 15 points, but not quite reaching that. Colorado has seen a crazy swing, and I think Sinema would help the cause there a lot. Which is crazy. Oh my god. Just 4 years ago, we were talking about Colorado being a swing state, and now it's like a safe one. Well, borderline safe. It's just absolutely wild to think about, to me. In terms of likely states, I think Iowa and Ohio lose some Republican support, however, remain in the likely column for Haley. Yes, okay, so moving on. Always forget Maine's 1st District. That's something, isn't it? You know what, speaking of Maine, let's hop in there. I think Maine's 2nd District becomes a tilt Sinema district. I think it'll be highly competitive here. I think these voters could see a lot from both candidates, and it would be tough to win over a large number of the people there. But I think that in Nebraska's 2nd District, subtract Trump hate, and I think it goes back to Republican. I say that because they elected a Republican to the House, so they're not afraid to vote for Republicans on that kind of scale. Okay. Let's jump over to the big dog, Texas. I think, and I've said this numerous times, I think Texas has at least one more run in it. And in this, I think it goes lean red, possibly losing a couple points, because I think Sinema would be a good candidate, like I said. Let's move over to the obvious. Arizona, I would say, has a lean margin. However, close to impossible that Sinema loses this. I think she wins it by 4.5 points just about, but yeah, probably not going to lose Arizona unless a big scandal is made. So I think the reach in Nevada would be enough to increase some points there, despite it being rock solid across these 4 years. Okay, so there we have the Sun Belt. They're done. Is Florida part of the Sun Belt? I don't think so. Sun Belt's like right here. Okay. Florida, I think, will remain in the lean Republican column in this matchup. Possibly losing some points, but I don't see Sinema exciting very many Floridians. And Haley has a connection with Trump, you know, her being in his cabinet. So I think Florida remains in the lean. However, you could say it could go to the tilt. I think the reach in North Carolina would give Haley the victory there, possibly even bigger than Trump's victory in North Carolina. You know, just because South Carolina, North Carolina. I mean, you could say that they don't have a lot of similarities, but if you compare it to, say, the Democratic primary in 2020, when one voted for Biden, a couple days later the other voted for Biden, and that was key to Biden's victory. The South Carolina bump. Alright, I love ending off at the Rust Belt. I am so crazy for it, but I think while Sinema can garner a lot of support in certain places, I don't think Georgia's one of them, but not by that much of a margin. I think Georgia comes back to the Republican by a tilt margin in this matchup. So we have a close matchup here. I think both of these women would be great candidates for their respective parties. However, I gotta say, and this is a very abrupt ending, well, not so abrupt, I'm going to put Michigan in the lean blue column. Sinema would be able to garner a lot of support amongst possibly Republicans in this state. And I think the same thing in Ohio, yet I think Ohio goes to the tilt red margin. Yes, it's very possible that it could happen. In both the 2016 and the 2020 elections, it was tilt red and tilt blue. So Wisconsin could become one of the ultimate swing states, oddly enough. And that just leaves one state left, which is the state of Pennsylvania. And I think that would ultimately go to Sinema here. I think as time moves on, this state could become more Democratic, while, say, these three could become more Republican. But only time will tell. I mean, if we're talking about states most likely to go to Democrats, in the Rust Belt, it goes Minnesota, least likely, then Michigan, then Pennsylvania, then Wisconsin. And that's kind of how it was in 2016 and 2020, and I don't think that's really going to change. I think Minnesota will have the biggest margin, Michigan second biggest, and then Pennsylvania the smallest. And not to say that it's impossible for Haley to win these, but I just think Sinema would be a great candidate for the Democrats. Alright, thanks for watching, by the way. Let me know what you think about that Democratic primary idea I mentioned earlier in the video between AOC and Pete Buttigieg. Be sure to like the video, leave a comment with more suggestions. Again, this video is a suggestion. Shout out again to Progressive Rising for this one, and subscribe for more daily content. Peace.